The purpose of this video is to further help you understand how technical writing is different from academic writing. So there are some ways in which they are similar. I'm not going to touch on every single similarity. I'm just going to point out some of the top ones. And then I'm going to point out some of the key ways that technical writing is different from academic writing. And this will help you start to envision how this is really a different type of context, a different type of expectation than maybe what you've been working with in other types of English classes. So some of the key similarities with, and this is actually true of any type of writing, except maybe creative, but really, as far as when we're talking about strong writing, this is true of academic, it's true of technical, clarity is key, meaning it needs to be clear. If it's not clear for your audience, and by clarity, it means like for your audience, for your reader, right? Not for yourself. It needs to be clear for your audience. And that's something that is going to transfer over from other classes that you've had about writing. The clearer your writing is, typically that's the stronger it is as well. Another similarity is just that the basic organization structure for beginning, middle, and end, that's going to hold true for technical writing as well. It doesn't matter if you're doing a resume, an email, if you're putting together a proposal, there's still going to be that beginning, middle, and end organization. Now, it's not the same as having like a traditional introduction, conclusion, etc., body paragraphs. That gets a little bit different. But as far as that idea that there should be a clear start, middle, and finish to your different works, that's a good way to think of kind of how maybe some of that academic writing can transfer over. Also, both academic writing and technical writing require audience awareness and purpose. Now, audience awareness and purpose becomes a bigger part of technical writing, but it is still something that you've probably been introduced to in other classes where you've been writing essays. Tone and word choice is also something that translates. When we're talking about academic writing, you may have had professors say, well, make sure and use an academic tone. Academic tone is not that different. It's really the same as a professional tone, right? So that translates really well over. Now, the types of words you may use do change. But as far as the idea that, yeah, you really got to have the kind of that professional sound to your writing, that also is true of technical writing as it is of academic writing. Now, grammar rules are grammar rules. They're not going to change between the two. You get to actually play a bit more with grammar when it comes to technical writing, but in terms of what the rules are, that's the same across the board. So that doesn't change. Now, some of the main differences. Grammar becomes more important in technical writing, and this happens because there is simply less writing there. So when you're looking at, say, a 6-page essay compared to a, maybe 200-word email where it's, maybe a paragraph or two at most, it's just easier to see grammar errors in technical writing. It's going to be more obvious because there's less words to look at and less words on the page. There's also a lot more, I just want to say more places where grammar becomes evident. So when you're doing a list, like I have this set up in a listing format, if I did not capitalize the beginning of every first word in the list, it would be obvious. It would look like something's off. Same thing as if I started capitalizing every word in every item, it would look off. And that's because it's not consistent. So there's grammar rules that are important, and then there's also grammar in references to the consistency of how you're using different rules in technical writing. And so the emphasis changes a little bit. There's also times in technical writing where you can actually do things like write in phrases, such as how I've done here. Most of these lines would be considered fragments in sort of a traditional academic setting. But here, because it's in a list, it's completely appropriate. And so you get to play a little bit more with some of those rules. And then the thing that starts to stand out more and more is that you got to be really careful of punctuation in technical writing. And I already mentioned the capitalization, and then what's also referred to as parallel structure of your writing, which we'll get into much more later in the term. Also, a big difference besides that grammar element is that when you're doing academic writing, you've probably been asked to write in MLA or APA or some format that is specific to a discipline, such as anthropology. They have their own specific way of citing sources and documenting research. When it comes to the format, as far as how you set up the visual design, what things look like, what the expectations are, that actually will change for every genre within technical writing. Meaning that how you format an email, that's different than how you format a letter. And it's different from how you format, say, a proposal, or how you format a resume. And so format changes for every single different type of writing, and there's really specific formatting rules that are attached to technical writing, which isn't the place for an essay. There may be formatting specifics, but it hands over. MLA is MLA. It doesn't change if you're in my class or this class or that class. It's MLA. But MLA applies to all types of essays, right? I can do it for a creative work. I can do it for something personal. I can do it for an argument. And then I get to technical writing and I'm like, oh, well, here's the format on how to write an email. And here's the format on how to write a memo. And here's the format on how to write a letter. And so just remembering that changes for every genre. And then citation rules are also slightly different, which I'll get to a bit later in this, just in terms of how they apply to technical writing and how you incorporate maybe some of that information. In technical writing, design elements actually become a major component, meaning you may be creating visual designs, including pictures, you may be including graphs, you may be creating a website, you might be doing a video. There's all types of visual components in addition to some of the basic things, such as using color, highlights, font, borders. These are all things that you can do in technical writing, but you can't do in an essay. So again, this is actually an aspect of technical writing where you get a little bit more flexibility within the creative department as far as determining something appropriate for your audience. The writing in technical writing is very concise yet specific, meaning you don't get a lot of space in technical writing to say what you need to say. So it has to be really concrete and clear. You can't use a lot of vague, broad language in technical writing. Your purpose, it's going to get lost. The clarity will get lost. Plus, then it's going to start looking more like that academic writing and less like technical writing. So a good kind of way to think about technical writing is you're trying to give as much information as possible, but without saying a whole lot. You're not trying to dance around it. You're trying to be direct. You're trying to be concise, but at the same time being really clear and detailed. And that's a challenge. It's probably one of the hardest pieces actually of technical writing, is that how to write in a concise way, but still be really clear while doing it. Another difference with just technical writing is it's all going to be related to business or work-related audiences. So it's all in the context of that environment. It's not going to be like specific classes or college related. Nah, it's really thinking in terms of the working business career world. As far as the purpose, there's really 3 ways to kind of categorize the purposes surrounding technical writing. It's either to inform, to instruct, or to persuade. Those are kind of the 3 big purposes that you have. And so considering what you're trying to do, of course, is always important. And then you can kind of decide what's appropriate beyond that. There is all kinds of templates that are available for technical writing. So you can find all kinds of templates online. Even Word provides all kinds of templates. If I want to set up, say, a letter, or if I want to set up a memo, or if I want to set up a cover page. I'm going to tell you right now, please do not use templates. They are bad. And I'm not trying to be picky or anything like that, but most of the templates out there do not follow any of the guidelines provided by technical writing manuals, text, or experts. They're meant to be easy fill-in-the-blank documents for someone that has not studied technical writing. Now that you all are in a technical writing course, create your documents yourself. Start with a blank page. You will have better luck. You will create stronger writing, and it's going to be more effective once you're outside of the classroom. So again, please do not use templates. They will not set you up for success. One of the other things just to consider in terms of technical writing is, plagiarism is plagiarism, but now we start thinking in terms as copyright law. As in, there is legal ramifications if you plagiarize out in the work environment. And so you want to think in terms of that as well when you're doing technical types of writing. You have to be really careful that you're not copywriting someone else's ideas or information. And then finally, one of the main differences is that in academic writing, you're often, how do I want to say it? you're writing in a way that you want to sound knowledgeable and smart. And sometimes that means that you might be using big fancy words. Not always, but sometimes. And then within the context of different courses, there's all kinds of technical jargon that you may have been using. When we talk about technical writing, any technical jargon you would want to break down so that someone who knows nothing about your topic can understand it. And so one of the tricks to doing technical writing is that it needs to be appropriate for a variety of readers, including those with experience and without experience with whatever it is. So maybe I'm giving instructions on how to set up your Office 365 account as a student. I have to assume that some students understand technology and some know nothing about it. Some may not even be completely clear on how to turn on their computer. And so I'd have to make sure that those instructions are very explicit and clear and appropriate for both audiences. And so again, that technical jargon often gets broken down into something that's understandable for everyone. Now again, I could go into a lot more differences. We could talk about more similarities. These are just some of the big key ones that I wanted to touch on, sort of starting out so that you really get that context. We'll be practicing, of course, these things throughout the term, but just to really give you that context for understanding how technical writing is going to be different from the types of writing that you've done before. So with that being said, that concludes this video. As always, let me know if you have any questions.